I know 100% everybody asked for this video, but I'm going to tell you some tips and tricks on how to make the most out of this class, how to get the most XP, what you need to do, what you shouldn't do, things like that. I've seen multiple people make different videos about this, and I feel like for the most part, most of it's the same for me. I might add a couple of new things. I love how I just disappeared there. Wow. But I'm basically going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to like make the most out of your classes. So first things first is you want to lower your graphics. Now, I'm in a private server for this specific tutorial, if you will, but I do recommend that you lower your graphics to the lowest setting. It just helps being able to see the eggs a lot more when it comes to finding eggs and stuff like that. And when there's less of graphics, you can easily see like where the eggs are currently at, even if you're like far away. Like you can obviously see where the eggs are kind of located. And also, I'd also recommend you not being in a private server. Like I said, I'm doing this for like this tutorial, but the more people there are, the more eggs will spawn. It's kind of like impossible to get the most out of the eggs, especially if you're like in a private server, because it really just depends on how much people are in the server currently. Now, with my graphics being low, I can see a lot of where the eggs are currently located, but for the most part, you want to be in a server that's decently sized, like medium sized. You don't want to have too many people, but you don't want to have like too little people either, because you need to be able to collect as much eggs as you possibly can. But with your graphics being as low as it is, and then being in a public server, and yeah, that kind of stuff happens, kind of ruins the whole vibe. It just helps being able to collect as many eggs and maximize your time as much as possible. Now, when it comes to like finishing the game, every time you get like 50 eggs, you can either pick between the accessory egg or the experience egg. If you want to get the most amount of diamonds, I do just recommend you getting as many like of the eggs as possible and click on the XP egg instead of the accessory egg. Like there's nothing wrong with clicking that as well, but for the most part, they're kind of just like cheap, boring accessories anyway. So it's more efficient to just continue to get XP, especially every time you level up in this game, you get 1.8k diamonds. So, you know, that's a bonus. Like I don't really have to farm too much. Like I farm a little bit a day, so that way I don't get too overwhelmed with everything. And then also towards the end of the round being finished, you want to stay as close to the base as possible, as close as to the thing as possible, for a couple of reasons. Obviously, if like the eggs are more around the area of the egg, you want to stay as close because you don't want to be too far away. Like if one, for example, like the fairies or whatever kind of like throws you off, makes you lose a whole bunch of eggs from your basket, or if you're like very slow, you don't want to be all the way across the map over here and you're running out of time. You have like 5 seconds left to get the remainder eggs in your basket into the little nest here. You want to just be as close as you possibly can. Now, I can't give tips and tricks on like when these things kind of happen. There's like certain perks that you'd get where you get like x-ray vision, and then there's perks like this where it makes it impossible for you to see. But with your graphics being low, you'd still be able to spot the eggs even when the fog is kind of covering it up. So you also want to stay as close to the ground as possible, because again, like you're able to see a lot of eggs. And then at the start of the game, you kind of want to go far out over here onto these rocks, because usually there'll be like over here would usually be eggs spawning over on the rocks and the hills and even in the water. But at the beginning of the game, you kind of want to get as far out as possible, mainly because a lot of people are going to be collecting the eggs around the area for the first half of the game. So you want to be able to just collect as many eggs as you possibly can. In order to do that, you kind of just need to like venture out over here in these areas. And then towards the middle of the game, you kind of want to also search in here as well, because usually there'll be like eggs hidden in the crevices of the lakes and stuff like that, and not everybody goes in there either. So like at the beginning, you want to be out on the outskirts, because you'll definitely find a lot of eggs just hidden, sitting around everywhere. And then towards the end, you want to be closer to the basket, so that way, just in case if anything happens, you know, you're close to the basket to drop off whatever eggs you have. Don't stress, you know, take your time. It is what it is. Like sometimes I don't always win first place, but when I'm in a public server, there's a whole bunch of eggs just everywhere. There's always egg showers and stuff like that. And like I said, you're able to see the eggs a lot easier, especially if you're like zooming out. For the most part, you can actually see where all the eggs are located and stuff like that. Another thing, I would wait until you have your basket full before you go deliver your eggs to the basket. Like if you have like 9, 10, you know, you can deliver that, but I'd wait until like your basket is full, then go and deliver that and then come back to collect more eggs. Some people like to like deliver it in kind of like batches because I mean, honestly, that's probably the best idea, especially when the fairies kind of knock the eggs out of your basket. It just makes more sense to just drop off whatever eggs you have collected and just, you know, keep it moving. Like I said, personally would just wait until I have 10 in my basket, then I'll drop off the eggs because usually that little buff thing that happens with the fairies don't usually happen often. And even then, I have to be like pretty close. So I try to stay as decently close as possible to the nest so that way that doesn't happen. But at the same time, sometimes that can't be preventable. Yeah, things like these, it's kind of just unavoidable. You kind of just have to wait for it to kind of pass. It is kind of annoying when it happens towards the end of the round though, and you have like 10 eggs in your basket. And it honestly ruins the flow of you collecting eggs when you get frozen or you get slowed down time or the fairies knock the eggs out of your basket or whatever. Like it's really annoying. And I get that, especially when you're like basically almost finished and it's like the end of the round. It's like the last little bit, you know, and it's being real shady type. And then once you get 50, like I have here, go ahead and click your XP. And sometimes it'll give you more, sometimes it'll give you less. And like I said, every time you level up, you get 1.8k diamonds. So this is definitely a very useful to like farm. If you guys are very like into that farming grind, this is the best way to optimize your time. Being in a public server, making sure to have as many people as possible, but also not that many people at the same time. Like having a medium server, half and half, so that way there's enough eggs spawning around to collect. Having your graphics turned all the way down so that way you can see the eggs a lot clearer. Don't forget to, at the beginning of the game, just kind of go on the outskirts because a lot of people are staying close to the nest because that's where all the eggs usually kind of just spawn at. But there's a lot of eggs on the hills and the rocks over here, so kind of just spread out at the beginning. And towards the end, you want to kind of stay as close to the nest as possible. Collect as many eggs around the nest so that way you can easily drop them off before the round ends and get your little points in. And I think that's pretty much all the tips and tricks I have for this. Let me know down below if you guys have any tips and tricks for this as well, because I know some people have their own like method on how to do this, but this is just the way I do it. And usually I'll get like top 3 at most, maybe even like 4th place, but usually I'll get top 3 for doing these things. Take your time, drink some water, don't rush it. It is what it is. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye bye.